Hey everyone, thanks for your patience. We are starting now. So again, for all the questions, please send them through the Udemy server in the channel workshop question and answers. I'm gonna send the link here on the chat. And now I'll hand it over to Looty Games.
All right, hello everyone. Thanks for joining here. We're going to talk about visual effects today. My name is John. I'm the CTO of Looty Games, and I'm here with J3. He's our visual effects artist and gameplay engineer. So who are we? Looty Games is a small game studio located in Fort Worth, Texas. We're currently working on Ruin, which is a multiplayer action roguelite experience built in Roblox. We plan on launching in 2022. Here's a bit of footage of Ruin. As I said, it's an action game, so visual effects are extremely important in an action game. You can see some of them going off here. Some of the reasons why visual effects are important and why you might care about this is they really help in communicating gameplay information. So you can see here, whenever a player takes damage, like just now that just happened, there's a red flash indicating that they got hit. There's also damage numbers coming off the player, and like that can really help convey what is happening in the game. Otherwise, you may not be able to understand exactly the gameplay that's occurring. Another important aspect of it is, selling the fantasy of the game that you're making. If you're an ice mage, for instance, and you're supposed to be using ice magic, but you don't see that, you don't feel that representation in the game, it's not really going to sell the fantasy to the player. So you can see like there's a visual effect here of a blizzard going off right there. And that's like one of the weapons we have in the game where you get a staff and you become an ice wizard. So it can really be useful for the fantasy aspect of gameplay as well. Another really important aspect is like just adding juice to the game. And what I mean by juice is just making the game like really satiating. So when you open a chest and like you just get a reward, that's great. But what really sells that is you open a chest and there's an explosion of stars, and then the reward pops out and it shows up with a transition on the screen. And these kind of things can like really make the player feel rewarded and bring the gameplay to have a higher impact. And then the final thing with visual effects, it shouldn't really be underestimated, is that they're really appealing. We've actually performed tests on Instagram where we've run ads with minimal visual effects and ads with visual effects. And we found that we have higher click-through rates on those ads, and the cost of acquiring customers is much lower. So they can be really useful as a marketing tool and to get players into your game. Not only that, but showing clips like this on social media like Reddit or TikTok or what have you can really help build a player base and get people interested in your game and join your community. So I'm going to kick it over to J3, and he's going to give a talk about how he goes through the process of actually building these effects.
All right. So yeah, I'm James. I'm the visual effect artist. This is pretty much our process. So usually we start with like a design or an idea. You want the archer to shoot an arrow, the sword to slash, etc. So after the idea, then we'll go find references that you can see on the right. After we get those, then we go into making the visual effects, so designing it, putting it into game, coding it, etc. And then we have to make it readable, which means that it's not sort of clouding the screen and like blocking what's happening in game. So that's why it's like super important. And finalization is just like the final look of things. So this is like the beginning designing steps. So after I got the idea, maybe some references, I'll make the textures in Photoshop, After Effects or Blender. Then I'll pop them into Roblox and then code them, make them look nice. You can show the video. And yeah, that's pretty much what this effect turned into. This is the ice wizard. So yeah, it really conveys that it's, ice. Now you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so designs, right? It's super important that the visual effects match the character that we're making them for. And with the first video, this was the archer's heavy attack. And it's great, it looks great, but it just didn't match the style of the archer. So we had to take a step back, sort of pull back on that idea a bit and change it around. We can go to the next video. So yeah, so this video is pretty much the look that we wanted. We just wanted like a basic charged arrow. It conveys that the arrow is being charged and shot out. It's not overclouding the screen and it's not like too bright, right? And then the next video is the finalization. So the finalization is like any last minute changes, color changes, design changes, anything to do with the visual effects. This is like our finalization. And that's how the move turned out. Now I want to go over why readability is important. It's important so that the player can see what's happening on screen like at all times. You don't ever want to be in a position where there's too much on the screen for you to not know what's happening, right? You need to always know what's happening every second of the game, right? So for the first video, the barbarian has this whirlwind attack, and this was the sort of first case of the visual, but it's, again, super bright, super colorful, and they can cloud the screen and block things like the damage numbers or any overlapping visual effects. So for the next video, this is the final outcome. We had to pull back on the brightness, a bit of the details, just to make sure that it conveys that it's a whirlwind, but it's also readable, so we can see everything that's happening around it. And for making performant visuals, we have a test tool that I'm gonna pull up. Let me get this up. Pretty much this test tool helps us test if the visual effects is performant. It can show in what areas that needs to be changed, whether it's like tweening things, resizing things, whatever, physics space. And share that. So this is the testing. So in this scene, we can control the spawn amount, the spawn rate, the amount of space in between each spawn rate or spawn amount. Render distance is which I'll cover as well. We could just play like the Arbalest. You can see how we can test this. I can spawn 100 of them. And like our goal for our game is to be able to sort of spawn at least 50 of these at the same time with minimum disturbance or minimum performance hits. So this really helps us out when it comes to performance and stuff like that. We can also check the micro profiler, and this usually gives us any information that's happening, whether like run service heartbeat is running too much, UI stuff is running too much, tween servers is somewhere in here, raycasting, etc. So we can see different areas of what's taking up the most performance and most data, right? And for render distance, this is sort of like a neat trick to cut down on performance. Because if the visual effects is not in screen or not in your range, you shouldn't spawn it, because just spawning it is just wasting more data, more performance for the player. So we build a tool to where it allows us to only render within a certain range of the player. So like they're all firing their arrows still, but it's only rendering the stuff that I set around the player. So this is what that looks like. We just change that as many times as we want. Let's go back to the PowerPoint.
Okay, I think you just need to cancel your share and it'll go back.
Oh, stop sharing. There we go. Right now we just see your face.
Oh, you just see my face?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. And yeah, like I was talking about the profiler, we can see which area of performance is happening, what's taking up the most memory, etc. And yeah, this is just a screenshot of the profiler.
Okay, yeah, so like JP was saying, there's like several things you can do for performance. Some of the ones just to highlight or, client-side processing and rendering, proximity rendering and activation, and profiling and testing visual effects. So the client versus server, visual effects really only need to be processed if someone is around to see them, and only really for the player itself. So if you try to spawn all the visual effects and create these visual effects on the server in Roblox, you can run into some performance overhead. So what we do actually is we have the visual effect events sent down to the clients using remote events, and then like J3 was saying, we conditionally render them. So really the clients have to only render and worry about the visual effects within their vicinity. And this saves a lot of network overhead. It saves a lot of like trying to move parts on the server and all the different overhead when it comes to processing these visual effects. And the ultimate outcome of this is that we can create more complex and visual appealing visual effects without having to worry about mitigating the performance impact. So yeah, conditioning rendering visual effects to clients only if they're in the area to view them. Like J3 was showcasing that tool and the tool. This saves a lot of overhead. So we've seen dramatic performance improvements on this. Another thing we can talk about is like profiling and testing. So as J3 was showcasing with the profiler, you can actually see when you're responding to these visual effects, where the impact's occurring with the profiler. And in Roblox, there's these profiling begin and end tools that you can use to get even more data. So if you want to take like, oh, we have this visual effect, you can break it into several parts. You can identify which part of the visual effect is actually taking up the most processing time. And really the trick to doing this and to getting good results is to do something like we did with creating a tool where you can spawn a lot of these consistently in the same time frame. Because what that'll allow you to do is then get enough data to actually see where the bottlenecks are occurring. And what you want to do is focus on where the biggest performance hits are first, instead of just trying to optimize everything, optimize where your worst running code is and where your biggest performance bottlenecks are. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for our talk on visual effects. Follow us on playruin.gg. We have a trailer for our upcoming game as well as our Discord that you can join. Shoot any game dev questions. Any questions about visual effects can be asked there. J3 also has an incredible YouTube channel under Red Plays. I don't know if I pronounced that right, J3. Is that how you pronounce it?
It's Red Plays, yeah.
Red Plays, okay. Yeah, and so he's got a lot of like in-depth tutorials on like how you actually get into the code and construct visual effects using scripts and part manipulation. So I highly recommend if you're interested in building visual effects, check out his channel. So yeah. So I guess that's we're open to any questions if there's any questions anyone has.
Thank you guys for the incredible presentation. We just have one question so far. So what resources do you recommend for learning about visual effects, if you have any recommendations?
Wait, could you go over that question again real quick?
What resource do you recommend for learning about visual effects?
I recommend YouTube and Google, just searching up different visual effect ideas that you might like want to recreate or anything. People usually make videos on this. Some might even teach you how to do a bit of the visuals, right? So yeah, YouTube and Google's like a good source for that.
And J3's channel. I learned a lot about visual effects from J3's channel, so.
Yeah, awesome, thank you. And the next one is, what kind of devices should I keep in mind when working with GFX?
What kind of devices do we keep in mind?
Yeah.
Mobile for sure. Depending on like your game and if you want it to mobile, Xbox, etc., you have to keep in mind of those devices, like especially if they're lower end. You got to try to make sure that it can run on that lower device like first, and then you can focus on making it work for every other device that's higher end.
Yeah, I think like a good practice is to kind of get a target device, which is like, this is the minimal device that we want to support, like whether that's an iPhone 8 or, whatnot. And then if you have access to that device, all the better. And then like use one of these test tools, like we have, create a test scene and then test the visual effects and then measure the performance on that device. And you can do that with the micro profiler like we were showing earlier, just to make sure that, the game's going to run smoothly.
Awesome. I think we have one more person asking questions. Let's just wait until they finish typing. The question is, when it comes to VFX for user interface, what do you use?
That's a good question. You can use a variety of different sort of techniques by having like swappable images, layers. We also have like this module that sort of simulates a particle. So we were able to use that for our UI for our game. So whether you're like leveling up, you have like these stars that pop off your player and go to like your XP bar. Also like health bar stuff. Pretty much anything that needs to be shown that is moving or interacting with the player, that module can help us with that. And I believe it's open source, so you can look it up on the dev forum as well.
Okay.
You don't remember the name of it, J3?
I do not. You could probably look up like UI VFX Roblox. So.
Okay. I think that's the questions that we have so far. So guys, thank you again for the incredible presentation. We appreciate it. And yeah, we thank you and you can finish here.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.